Hello and welcome to the Inside Stylists podcast. I'm Emma Morton-Turner and you're listening to episode 31. From fashion stylist to interiors magazine editor, Ciara Elliott shows us how to stay on top. So, it would appear that every episode I seem to have a reason to explain the noises that go on in the background. I do my best to keep it nice and quiet where we record, but things always seem to happen, like buses going past, and this episode has a window cleaner in it. We moved to a really quiet room and he followed us, and he was working so hard on getting this paint off of the window that had just been decorated, and bless him, he was trying really hard, but all you can hear is in the background. So I've edited out as much as I possibly can, so just ignore it. It's not the whole way through, but Ciara's got some fantastic experience behind her, and she's really interesting, and I love the whole Fashion ReBoot that she's doing. Definitely a really good episode to listen to, so I really hope you enjoy it. Today's guest has worked on many publications, from the Sunday Tribune, Confetti magazine. She's worked in magazines, EKBB. She's now building the Red House, runs amazing fashion events. So you're probably going to guess today's guest is Ciara Elliott.
Hi.
Did I pronounce your name correctly?
Yeah, that's perfect. Well done.
First hurdle over. Thank you very much for inviting me round.
Well, thanks for coming.
Your house is beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
And massive. Whenever you see someone's house on Instagram, you kind of have an idea of what it looks like. But your house is it's so tall. It's fantastically tall.
I do love the high ceilings.
Yeah,
it's you
fabulous.
know, and funny enough, in this area, when we spent so long trying to find our house, but there's so many Tudor cottages which are beautiful, but really low ceilings, and we're just like banging our heads off beams. And
you've got
so
the opposite.
when we walked in here, now we've got the complete opposite.
Yeah.
And it feels quite lofty and airy and open, and I love that.
Yeah, no, it's fabulous.
Obviously, just to say, it is very dishevelled around the edges. You're saying it's beautiful, but actually it's a bit of a building site, but that's okay.
I don't see that. I just see tall ceilings and big windows.
Oh.
Amazing architrave. Yeah, it's fabulous. So you're working in interiors. You've kind of got this whole house that you're doing up, but how did you get into interiors in the first place?
So it was sort of a roundabout way. I mean, to be totally honest, I always did a little bit of property and interiors anyway. When I was originally, obviously I came from, you can probably tell from my accent, I'm Irish. I built my career in Dublin, and I worked in a newspaper there called the Sunday Tribune for many years as a fashion editor, but I did often write property and interiors things in that capacity as well. But then I was also an editor of an Irish fashion magazine called Irish Tattler, and then I went on to edit Confetti, which is a bridal magazine, and then came over here after the crash, actually, because my husband suddenly just literally lost his job. So I took my jobs with me. So essentially I went freelance kind of at that point. And I had my two little girls and was sort of working from home, and then I took the job at Hubert Burda Media, which I was editor of Wedding magazine there, which doesn't exist anymore. So I started there, and I ended up going into interiors because the editor of the interior magazine was going on maternity leave. EKBB, she was going on maternity leave, and they needed an editor. So I went over there. I filled in for her. And then
did you think that was going to be a short-term thing?
Yes.
Yeah, you were like, I'm just going to help out in interiors for a minute, and then I'll go back to fashion or weddings or something.
Yeah, exactly. I always kind of I still see myself in fashion, weirdly. I do love interiors, but I suppose I do see myself doing both because essentially, I love clothes. Yeah. But so I guess it's sort of, they're not such a stretch, really. No. It's not so different. It's and actually comparing it with interiors, I think there's probably a bit more buoyancy in the fashion market possibly than interiors, and that's probably why people stay in the fashion market, because there's so much, and people obviously need more clothes than they do sofas, don't they?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's more to say, and things are changing faster. Having said all that, I think interiors have changed a lot, even in the last sort of 5 years that I've been working in them. Yeah, and they're becoming a lot more kind of people changing their houses quicker and buying, things which there's maybe more confidence in the market. Maybe people just sort of using a bit more of that sort of fashion or style eye to change up their house and have more confidence in what they're doing. They're looking at what's going on abroad, and I suppose in America and Australia, there's always been a lot more emphasis on sort of changing up your house, possibly because of the rental market. I don't know, but we've always been homeowners, haven't we, in the UK and Ireland? So people maybe are more sort of settled in their views about how they decorate.
Yeah, I think when I was talking to a PR recently, I can't remember who it was. It wasn't Smeg, but it was someone who said they did an appliance. It was like an oven or something, quite a big item, and they did it bright pink just for PR, but it hit everyone loved it, so everyone started buying it and they started selling it, but they had no intention of doing it. They just thought, let's put it out there and get attention. So it's quite interesting.
It is.
Did you study media?
I did English and history at Trinity College Dublin, and then I did a master's in journalism at Dublin City University.
So writing.
So very much journalism, writing. From the very beginning.
So now you're freelance. So you left EKBB.
Yes.
Oh, God, tongue-tied. Not that long ago, actually. We were just
is it 6 months? Is it even 6 months? So April. Actually, this will be sort of going into my first autumn winter, and not being in an office and not doing. I'll probably really miss all the sort of Christmas parties. No, I just have to get some freelance people together. And,
there's a freelance Christmas party. We'll keep you posted. But how's it going being freelance? I mean, you've been freelance before.
Do you know what? My kids are now. So I've got an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old, and this is my 10-year-old's last year at school. And obviously I've been working. I think I've probably worked harder in the last 6 months than I probably have for 10 years before that, only because you're kind of almost like building a business. It's almost like building a business being a freelancer, because you have to sort of put yourself out there and you work all hours of the day. But having said all that, it's really wonderful to be able to pick them up from school. I mean, I haven't done that all through my little one's primary school. I haven't been able to be I always dropped them, but I was never able to pick them up. And then the activities after school and the homework, and as anyone knows, with kiddies as they get bigger, they need all that more and more actually. So in some ways this is really good timing for me. I won't not necessarily ever go back into a full-time job. I think I probably would, but right now the timing is good for me to
enjoying it.
Yeah, I am. Yeah.
It's
a good balance.
Yeah, I went freelance when my youngest started at primary school, because I didn't have to have nursery fees anymore. And it was that whole not having to ask if I can have the morning, come in a bit late to watch an assembly and stuff. That freedom is that was the first thing I noticed straight away. You don't feel guilty anymore.
You don't feel guilty.
You just work until midnight.
You just, exactly, that's it. You just kind of, you don't have the structure as well of being able to, take a holiday without worrying. Or
You
but I'm sure
10 holidays a year.
Yeah.
If you earn enough.
Well, exactly. Yeah.
So what have you been doing since you went freelance?
So I've been working for loads of different magazines and newspapers, and kind of building my blog as well. I've been onto that, which has always been something I've been meaning to do.
Yeah, so we were just talking about that. Your blog's called theredhouseedits.com.
Yeah. And I'm not quite ready with it yet, but I'm just learning everything I can with that and trying to get that ready. And just working for lots of the different interiors magazines. So House Beautiful, Good Homes. I just did a piece for Grand Designs. House and Home in Dublin, Image Magazine in Dublin.
That's really cool. You've still got ties with Dublin.
Yes, I do. And I really kind of love that. And I love that I'm able to go back and work now for them, because I kind of miss that.
Yeah.
And
how did you kind of get the ball rolling? Because
there's a window cleaner.
right outside the window. With a little brushing noise. Just ignore those. Because your job kind of changed, and that's why you left EKBB.
Yes.
So how did you kind of put yourself out there? Because you had been in. How long were you there for?
At Hubert Burda Media.
Oh, yeah, so you
were
there
I was there for.
I
think I was there 4 years on EKBB, and before that I'd been probably nearly, I don't know, like 2 years. I think maybe not as much as that.
So
something like that.
You hadn't been kind of freelance and.
No, I hadn't been properly freelance. I haven't properly been freelance probably for many years, actually, to be honest. I was freelance when I first started out in journalism, and I loved it. And that's, I worked for all the different newspapers and all the different magazines. And then ever since I took that job at Irish Tatler, which is 15 years ago probably now, I haven't been freelance.
Yeah. So you kind of had to reintroduce people to your availability. So.
Well, exactly. Saying that though, I've always done extra things. I've always been one of those people that, and in Ireland it's a lot more fluid, the market. So as an editor in Ireland, I did TV, I did radio, I did lots of supplements, I did lots of things that were extra to what your job was, and things like work. But I suppose before then, it was before there was like influencer stuff.
Yeah.
But you would be asked by a brand to do something like go and maybe style something in a shop or do a talk in a shop. But it's just part of what you're doing. It's just the media. It's just what you're doing. But I do notice since I came over here, people are a lot more, you are this and you are that. And there's not as much fluidity. So in the last since I've been in the UK, I have been more desk job. But then through my job, I did a lot of stuff in EKBB. Like we had great influencer awards, and we had, really fun things that we did during that time. We had the blog as well. We were nominated twice for Amara Awards, one of which we won. So we always had things, kind of projects and extra things. Magazines aren't just magazines anymore, put it that way. There's a lot more going on than just the magazine. There's the events, and there's the online stuff. There's the Instagram was really important to us. So much going on.
Yeah. It's interesting how there's more going on and then there's less people to do it.
Oh,
it's kind of like
absolutely.
Everyone's got steam coming out of their ears.
Yes, I think that's across the board.
I
mean, it's
everywhere, wherever you work. Yeah,
it seems to be. Yeah. Well, weirdly enough, actually, I suppose again coming from a point of view of the Irish media and working in the Irish media, we never had lots of people anyway. So the UK media to us always seemed like, how do they have 20 people on that magazine? Like, what are they all doing?
Yeah.
We always only had about 5 people on the staff, and that's the big magazines.
Yeah.
The small magazines had 1 person on the staff.
Yeah.
So I suppose I've always been someone that can kind of turn my hand to, like, on a team. I've always worked very much where I do literally at 1 minute I'd get on, I'd do something directly on a page and move around the graphics, and then I'd write, and then I'd do some styling and go and do so I've always kind of worked across all the different roles that are in a magazine anyway. But that's a very Irish journalism thing. You definitely do that.
You've done that, and now it's kind of, you don't even notice that you're doing it because it's part of your job. And then later, years later, you kind of think, well, I have all these skills now because of that time.
Because exactly.
It's amazing that you learn and don't realise at the time.
I think in some ways it's great to to actually have lots of different experiences to do lots of different roles within a magazine or within a newspaper and
learn how to
radio or
copy and art.
Exactly.
Not that art and subs would be happy about that, but just so that you have that skill. Tell me, what's your favourite thing to do?
What's my favourite thing to do?
So in writing or styling, or if you could have any job, what would be the ultimate?
Well, I do love events. I do love getting out. I love chatting to people. I'm quite sociable. I love writing and I love social media, but I do actually like face-to-face, and I love meeting people. And I love seeing things come together in the flesh. And I love going on shoots. I love interviewing people. So I'm very much a people person as well as a writer. So I suppose maybe that's kind of, well, that's the great thing about magazines, is that it's working in magazines and working online is that it's never just the writing, is it? It's all the other stuff.
And I think the way everything is going, meetups and collaborations and things are becoming so much more popular.
Yeah.
And like you say, they're much more fun.
And also, even just in terms of the old print media, everything's coming to life now. So it really sort of suits my personality, because I'm such an in the moment, in the real person. I definitely want to always sort of be there and bringing groups of people together and connecting people, and which is what I do with the Fashion ReBoot side of my business as well, which is totally different to my journalism, but that's just such a buzz for me. I don't know in terms of highlights in my career, because there's so many different things. You do so many different things. It'd be hard to pick something. I mean, it's not like I've had some amazing, illustrious career, but there have been lots of really fun things I've done, and hopefully ahead of me as well, lots of interesting things.
I'm sure. The way you've got so much, you've done so much in such a short space of time.
Oh, thank you.
It all kind of starts coming out in the woodwork, because people go, oh, look, we can get you to do this. Yeah.
Would be good.
So have you had any, I always ask stylists if they've had any disasters, but have you had any nightmare situations that have happened at work? Any spring to mind? Most people, when I say that to, go, yes, there was this one time.
Yeah.
Fires and boats and things.
Well, I suppose it would probably be fashion shoots. I mean, fashion shoots are probably more eventful than home shoots, I'll be honest.
Yeah.
In fact, when I started doing home shoots compared to doing fashion shoots, I was like, this is really easy. There are no models and no personalities. And, it doesn't matter that, if the shoes don't fit, or or the model has stayed up last night and put on an extra £5 or whatever you're worried about. It's, so I mean, probably fashion shoots would be more disastrous. Like when you go along, there were a couple of times, but I don't know, there's just a couple of times where you sort of maybe just everything would be completely different to what you'd actually commissioned and what you were expecting. and you go along and you're just sort of going, oh God, I now have to tell this person that we just can't use this. It's awful. How am I going to organize this? How are we going to get this through the budget? Just those horrible kind of feelings of, this is supposed to be my cover shoot and now I'm left with nothing. Yeah. But they're sort of probably the biggest disasters. And I do remember actually before I was editor of Irish Tatler, I was the deputy editor. And I remember at the time, oh my God, this was probably a big disaster. The magazine had gone, and I hadn't been a deputy that long, like maybe a year at maximum. And so I was still pretty newbie. And anyway, the magazine went off, and when it came back in, the editor was off at an editor's lunch, and it was the wrong month. It had been printed however many thousands of copies, and it was the wrong month.
So was it the previous month? So you'd done 2 months in a row?
Well, it wasn't my fault. No, I wasn't. Well, it wasn't. I didn't proof it.
Yeah.
It wasn't actually, But I had to ring the editor and tell her, at her lunch that I was like, oh my God, these magazines have come in, and now the publisher's at my neck. You have to come back.
What happened?
I think she just let it go at the wrong month.
What can you do?
I don't know. It was just an oversight, or whoever, the subs, the printers, at that level, it had got. I mean, it's bizarre that but they had to be reprinted. That was probably the biggest disaster, publishing wise, I can ever remember, because that was a lot of money for the company. Yeah. I just remember thinking, oh my God. So that was
I remember. I was on a Christmas shoot, and I'd shot a real home, and I sent a proof to the reader and said, get it back to me straight away. And she didn't get it back to me until the day of my shoot. And I got an email from this woman saying, you've made me look terrible. I look stupid because I've got 2 sinks. And she got really upset, and she said, my daughter's read it and she thinks I look stupid as well. And we just said, you've got 2 sinks, it's a beautiful bathroom. We'd not said anything rude, but she wanted us to take it down. And it was literally printing that day, and we had to stop. I think it was about 2,000 prints had to be thrown and started again. And I just remember sitting on the stairs of this shoot, surrounded by baubles, crying my eyes out, going, why is this happening today? It was so stressful
feeling. It's
especially when you've done a really
feeling.
Good job, and you're like, but your house is beautiful and the shots are lovely, and we've not insulted you at all. She's just taken it in a really silly way.
And there's nothing you can do. And the worst thing about print media, compared to online, is that online you can always go back and change things these days, can't you? You can always just rectify it. But then when something goes to print, it's so black and white, literally, and it has to be retracted. And that is the worst
nightmare. We've all got disasters in our closets.
Yes.
So let's talk about the Red House then.
Yes.
So people who follow you on Instagram, so I'm gonna say your name, but then I'm gonna spell it because I have been spelling it incorrectly. So it's Ciara Elliott, and it's CIARAELLIOTT. Don't ask which bit I spelt wrong, because it wasn't the first bit. And I was going to be called Elliot if I was a boy.
People always spell Elliot wrong, like
with 1 T.
With either one L or 1 T or both.
Yeah.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's 2 L's and 2 T's.
Yes.
But everyone's different.
On your Instagram account, you have been documenting renovating the Red House, which is where we're sitting today with the tall ceilings. Yes. So how long have you lived here?
Well, actually, we have done 2 separate renovations. So when we first bought the house, we did like the plumbing and the roof, and we had to replace floors, and we had to bring everything, do all the replastering and all the stuff just to make it habitable, because it had been lived in by the same couple since the 60s, and nothing really had been done. So it wasn't, it was literally kind of falling around. It was falling apart around us when we bought it, but we knew that.
Did you have kids when you moved here?
Well, we were living around the corner. We were renting around the corner.
Oh, okay.
So we looked for a house for 2 years, I think. We moved out of London and we moved here for my job, actually, at Hubert Birds Media, which is not so far from here. And we then searched for a house, and it took ages. It took, as I say, everything around here is kind of Tudor beams and, quite small, like just really higgledy-piggledy, like really sweet, but actually quite kind of hard. Like it was quite hard to find a decent property. So when we found this, we did a big first renovation and moved in. but then there was lots more to do. So we had to build Ben's mum an annex. Oh, you can hear the window cleaner in the background. Do you want to stop?
No, it's fine. We moved into this quiet room and the window cleaner has followed us. Just ignore the funny noises in the background, the squeaking noises in the background.
And the squeaky noises are the fact that we had a window guy in doing our windows, and he left so much rubbish on the windows. He's now having to scrape it. Look, that's what he's doing. He's scraping the job that are it feels like sometimes Dr. Seuss. Yeah, it's a Dr. Seuss that the kids book around here, because you do one thing and then you make a mess somewhere else, and then you try and clean that up and then you make a bigger mess, and it just feels like never ending trying to clean things up, and it just gets worse and worse.
But you've got lots of rooms. I would just put it all in one room and shut the door.
Yeah,
that's what I would do.
Yeah. Well, there is a garage full of that as well.
And drawers. We've all got drawers like that. So you moved in.
We moved in the first time round. We then had originally we bought the house with Ben's mum for her to have a portion of it. So she just retired and we were building her an annex. But we didn't do that first time round. So then we had to go back and revisit that and do that a second time round. So in the meantime, we sold off a bit of our garden so we could pay for that, because we were totally out of cash. And that's what we did the second time round. So the second time round, we did our extension and we built an annex for Ben's mum. We built her a separate flat.
Right.
So
fantastic.
So that was. So we moved out again from last October till May. So we've been out a long time. We rented a little Airbnb around the corner for the winter, little kind of like Scandi sort of barn, which was freezing. But anyway, it was nice to get back in. So now we're just literally kind of moving back in and then finishing off the bits. Yeah. And because again, like anyone knows with a renovation, you spend all the money doing the place. It's now sort of a matter of doing what you can with what we have. Yeah, so, absolutely. But it's fine. It's quite creative. Cost an absolute fortune.
Oh my God. The finer details.
Yes.
Yeah,
come back and do the finer. Yes, come back and do the finer details.
But you've been posting. I remember seeing pictures of the pond at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And then it's all kind of sprung to life now.
I know. Oh God. That was what sold the house for us, was the garden. Yeah, and we still have all that lovely, sort of mature growth out there, and
and your kids are young, so they're gonna
appreciate it.
They're gonna to appreciate it.
Yeah.
How would you describe your style for anyone listening who can't see it?
Well, I'm definitely colourful. I love colourful. I love I love mixing things up. I do love a bit of vintage. I love a bit of contemporary. I'm very into art, and I have so many friends who are artists, and I had a flatmate once who just paid me in paintings, so I've got a lot of paintings.
Fantastic. You have got a lot of art. It's fabulous and it's colourful. I love it.
I think I'm definitely, I suppose, maybe bohemian, maybe a bit different. Like, I try not to be too influenced by what the trend is or by what everyone's doing, and try and kind of find your own sort of style.
Your Instagram's very good. You've got very good. You're doing very well on Instagram.
You've
got over 20,000 followers, and you're very you're there all the time. You're very good at posting regularly. Do you have tricks that you use to kind of keep it going?
I do think it's important to post regularly, without a doubt.
Do you think every day regularly, or
I think you have to do it every day. Actually, I think there was a time you'd almost want to do it twice a day. But I think nowadays, I'd say if you do it once a day, and I would also say try and do the same time. And also then spend a bit of time going and talking to people, and replying to the comments. If people are going to comment, I think it's just courtesy, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It does take time though, and I don't think there's a magic formula. I mean, I've been asked by other people, what do you think I can do at my Instagram, or what do you... And I literally think it is putting your own energy into it and just trying to build it up, and it does take time, without a doubt. And actually, I think it's great to have 20,000, but I feel myself I should have more. I'm just like, Ciara, you are rubbish.
Yeah.
Because then I see some people and they've got a gazillion and get a gazillion comments, and I'm like, God, what am I doing wrong?
How do you, because I think people are getting work now because they're being noticed on Instagram, and I mean, as in magazine feature work rather than just influencer work. How do you split your day up? Do you check in with Instagram throughout the day to keep on top of comments?
Well, I think to be totally honest, print media and magazines, they're not looking to give people work necessarily through Instagram. In fact, it's important to them, but really they like to keep that stuff separate. So if I'm working for brands, I think brands like to do it. In some ways, to me, Instagram seems very much about marketing, really more than journalism.
Yes.
So for me, my journalism feels very different to what Instagram is. And actually, I think, but I think they do go hand in hand. And I'm, but for me, really, originally, Instagram's never really been my work. It's been something alongside. In fact, if you scroll all the way back on my Instagram, it's all my family stuff and it's all my kids, and it really hardly mentions I'm a journalist at all. But it has become it's become closer to what my work is, and and now I sort of see it as part of it, which is kind of why I'm doing the blog as well.
Did you kind of consciously change your Instagram to be more kind of about
interiors? I think I
Fashion
probably
ReBoot?
did, because funnily enough, I think naturally my inclination is to take pictures of the kids and of the family, and I love light and I love outdoor pictures. I really like, my natural photography is more about being out and about and capturing things which are on the street or and that's, I love looking at other people's photography like that. But then it did change, because it seemed to be more, well, as my kids got bigger as well, I felt less like I wanted to take pictures of them and put them out there.
And then they get funny about it.
Exactly.
They get all this kind of social media training of don't share
exactly.
Your
And also, I just kind
and
of felt like actually maybe that was a thing, wasn't it? It's a thing when you're sort of a mum, when they're small.
And then they get to that age.
And then they get to that age, and actually now it feels like then the interiors and the fashion are more like what I do. It's my own personal interest, and
it's about
But
you.
originally, actually, I used to find, particularly fashion stuff, I used to find it really annoying on Instagram. Like when I first got on Instagram, I suppose maybe because it was what I was doing, I used to find, oh God, these bloody fashion people, putting their outfits on, and I just want to see landscapes, and I just want to see nice bicycles against walls, and lovely patinas and lovely colours. And
so who do you follow? Like, on not specifically people, you can mention people if you like, but do you follow more fashion or interiors, or is it a big mix?
Well, I love the fashion now. That's what I was going to say. I think I've really changed. I quite enjoy fashion. I enjoy looking at it because I really like to see how people are wearing things. Maybe it's just evolved as well and got better. And I love seeing the Fashion ReBoot stuff. And actually, through Fashion ReBoot, I obviously do follow loads of fashion people, and I I love the smaller ones as well. I actually almost prefer the smaller ones rather than the big fashion bloggers, because you're not being sold stuff as much, and
it's kind of unique.
It's not
style.
it's unique style. I love that, and actually maybe cameras have got better as well, and phones generally have got better.
Absolutely.
So it's become less of sort of selfie.
It's not just a face, it's a whole outfit.
I want to see that whole outfit
down to the shoes.
I always want to see where you got it, how much it cost. How can I recreate that look? I love that. And the reality is, with me, interiors versus fashion, absolutely love that you can buy a frock or buy a pair of shoes and feel like you've given yourself a a makeover, whereas a house takes so much more time and costs a lot more money.
And it's usually investment pieces that we want.
Exactly.
It's not just a quick 50 quid pair of shoes.
So Instagram's brilliant for seeing how people can just put together the latest looks. Or I love that.
We've mentioned Fashion ReBoot, but for anyone who doesn't know what it is, do you want to describe what that
definitely.
is?
Essentially, it is a car boot sale for your clothes, but more sort of your better clothes. Like it's not, we call it like a high-end fashion car boot, because we do it in the evening time, so there's a little bit of kind of glamour, people get dressed up. It's also more grown up than a car boot. You can have a gin and tonic. It's about 25, 30 sellers each time, different locations. I think I've done something like 12 or 14 locations now, which is huge, in the last 18 months. And it's really grown actually exponentially as well since stopping my job. Because obviously when I was in my job, I always only ever did it maybe once a month on a Friday, because, you don't have the time or energy. But then obviously since now I'm my own agent, I can create more of them and more people asking me, so I can go back. Anyway, there's always people who want to do them, which is fantastic.
And you got quite a few lined up. I think, was it Ipswich?
Yeah, so we did Ipswich last week. I've got Norwich on Friday.
This is going out on
Friday.
Friday,
so
listening.
tonight in Norwich, St John's Cathedral, £5 in, and there's a free gin and tonic. And we've got about 30 sellers, so lots of great Norwich bloggers. They're all fashion bloggers and fashion editors. Although sometimes, I got really lovely interiors contingent who come along too. And
I was going to ask that.
Yeah, we do. We Will you come to the one in Canterbury?
I'd
I'd love you to. Yeah, we did. So we were in Whitstable last year.
Yes.
So did you know about that one?
Yes.
Okay. So we were in Whitstable last year, and then we thought we'd just go somewhere a bit bigger this year. So hence...
Oh yeah, and Canterbury's a fabulous place.
That's what we thought, because there were a few Canterbury bloggers who came to Whitstable, and they were like, come to Canterbury. And obviously there's the students, and we've got a bigger space. And so anyway, we either thought there or Margate. So we went with Canterbury because we found the right location. So I think that'll be really fun. I'm really looking forward to that, actually. I really like Canterbury.
Would be good as well.
Margate would be good too.
And where was the other one? Brighton. You've got Brighton. You've done that
Brighton
before,
coming up. So Brighton again is also in November, and we've done that before. We did it actually on the hottest day of the year.
Oh, did you? Nightmare.
In July. It was actually really fun though. It was really fun. There was
just
loads
more
of
gin and tonic, I'm sure.
We had such lovely people come along, and lots of people from the interiors community as well. And the next one that's coming up though, because obviously we did it very quickly as well, the Brighton one, but we got the Grand in Brighton, and they just wanted us in, and they just wanted some publicity, so we did it. It was really, we just thought we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're back at the Grand and doing it again, and I think it'll be amazing. Really looking forward to that. So yeah, we've also got, there's one as well in Oxfordshire in November as well, and then Cheltenham.
One a week then? Doing them practice?
Well, actually, in September I've had one a week, and in November I'll have one a week as well. But then October I've got nothing. Yeah, which is nice.
You need a breather.
You need a breather. You definitely do.
A lot of
effort,
a lot of work to kind of
build
get them together, and, or even just running them. Like once you've got a venue, is it quite a lot of work in the back end?
It is work. It's like running an event. It's like running any event. You know, way back in my days in Dublin, I used to run a nightclub. That was one of the first, in order to make some extra cash. I did it with two of my friends at the time, my two flatmates at the time, and it feels a bit like that actually. Yeah. We used to have this nightclub that we used to run on a Friday, and we'd do it as well as our full-time jobs, and you'd promote it and you'd get everybody in, and it was really fun. It was a great night out, and it ran for a couple of years. So it feels a little bit like that, but it's obviously different as well. So, I mean, the point is I don't find it very hard, no, because it as well, the time, it usually kicks off about 6:30, and then everyone's finished by 9:30. So it's quite sociable. Yeah. Like it's not your whole night, like compared to doing a nightclub, which would be really late. And it's just great working with, you just meet such interesting creative people, and it's such a buzz. People have a great time, and that's, I can get a great buzz from that myself. So it doesn't feel like work. I guess that's the best kind of work, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And you've kind of been doing it that you've got the formula going, so it's like that stops it being, it's like the podcast when I first started doing them, I was like, God, have I got everything in the place? And now I'm like, I just need to make sure I've got the wires, and off we go.
Yeah, it's because you're doing the same questions, and it's different every time, but it's the same, you have the formula that's exactly the same with Fashion ReBoot. Yeah.
So do you have to buy it every time you go? Do you don't shop every time, or do you have to buy something?
It's funny actually, because in some ways I think, and when people are selling at Fashion ReBoot as well, they're often like, I cannot buy anything because I'm just trying to make money. I just want to clear my rails and make whatever. Some people make like 600 quid selling their stuff. Anyway, but so so sometimes I think, oh, Ciara, would you stop? Because I do buy things, and then sort of I get home and I'm like, why have I bought this stuff? But then often, if I don't buy stuff, I get more annoyed at myself. I'm like, why did I not bloody buy those white dungarees? Or why didn't I buy those Veda trainers that were a tenner? It's so stupid. So, because actually when you go to your wardrobe and then try and find something sometimes, or actually go shopping, and what you can get, basically the point is what you can get in Fashion ReBoot is brilliant. Yeah, and it's you can get in such one room, great gems.
No messing around.
It's really cool things that people have just kind of gone off, and but they're all absolutely perfect.
Yeah. What's the best thing you've ever bought at a Fashion ReBoot?
It's a good question.
Good name for a brand, by the way.
Yeah, do you
Fashion
like
ReBoot, love that.
Well, it was myself and Erica Davis, who's a blogger as well. I'm sure you know. Yeah. She's mega. But she's a school mum friend, and we came up with it together. She wanted to just shift some of her clothes, and I'd done something similar. Well, my friends in Dublin had asked me to get involved in something similar years ago. So anyway, we had talked about it and came up with Fashion ReBoot, and I love the name. I know, because it is what it is, isn't it? It's kind of car boozy. It's like reboot your life, reboot your wardrobe. Yeah. So it does feel, and there's been lots of talk about doing other stuff with it, like a kids version and maybe an interiors version. But the interiors version is funny actually, because it's probably more interesting for people reading this or listening to this, is about the interiors. But the interiors thing is that people Or, well, it's like what we were saying, like you're not as quick to change up your interiors and get rid of your interiors.
It's more interiors bloggers who get given lots
Well, exactly,
of
and we
stuff
do have a lot of
can't
interiors
keep it all,
bloggers
can
who
you?
can't keep it all, and they are the best because then they can just sell their stuff and like and people love that. Like if you can buy a cushion or buy small bits, but actually big bits of furniture. Well, then you're just into something else, aren't you?
Yeah.
So, but often things like plants and like really often people come to Fashion ReBoot, they're maybe a small business and it's just a nice forum and a way to meet people and a way to get out there. At our last Fashion ReBoot in London, we had like an earrings company, Jack and Frida's, and we had a really cool bag company and like another jump, someone doing cool sweatshirts and just things like that.
Yeah.
They'll have a little bit of a discount, and so it'll be still rebooty, but it'll also be brand new and different. Yeah. So there's that. So yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Well, I need to keep going.